This free hypnosis lesson is part of a series of 6. If you'd like to download all 6 hypnosis lessons completely free of charge, please go to freehypnosislessons.com.
Hello there and welcome to lesson number 4. In this lesson we're going to be focusing on deepening the trance state so that we can do something with it. There are lots of different ways you can deepen the state of hypnosis, and you'll soon find that you change these depending on the circumstances and depending on the needs of the client. What's important to remember is it isn't like casting a spell. You don't need to say every word in a certain order for it to work. Just follow a basic format, and as long as you do that, you'll be fine making it up as you go along. Now you can make great use of the hypnotic language patterns that we've already learned, and this will really assist the deepening script. So it's always a really good idea to have some key phrases ready beforehand. Also, if you do prepare some phrases beforehand, this gives you something to say when you're trying to think of what direction to take the induction next. So it gives you a bit of breathing space. Now a basic trance deepener works by creating a link between the idea of moving in a downward direction and the concept of going deeper into trance. Now you'll need to describe a scene for your client, and they'll imagine this scene and you'll talk them through the process using lots of suggestive language, and this will deepen the trance state. Some common examples of this are walking downstairs, going down in a lift or an elevator, walking down a path in a forest, or perhaps travelling down an escalator. Now most hypnotists like to count down if they go for a trance deepener. So the deeper they count down, the deeper into trance the subject goes. Some hypnotists choose to count up. It doesn't really matter which direction you count, it's just this idea of something progressing. Now if you opt to use the staircase situation, you can count a number on each step down. Some hypnotists use numbers in lifts, and you can imagine watching the numbers going down as the lift goes lower and lower. Now the lift is a really good example of something to use, because as you move beyond the ground floor into a basement, this can act as a metaphor for the idea of moving from conscious awareness down into subconscious awareness. So whatever you choose to do, simply link it to relaxing. For example, you can say that each number causes them to relax even more deeply, and the more relaxed they become, the deeper into trance they go. Now trance deepening doesn't have to be complicated. I know a hypnotist that always uses the same basic deepener, and he simply counts back from 10 to 1, and in between each number he says the words very slowly: sleep now, limp and loose, limp and loose. That's good. And he simply says that between each number, just counting down from 10 to 1. Now this kind of deepener is extremely simple, but it does work, so it's something you really want to try out for yourself. Now when you deepen a trance, the most important thing to focus on is your voice. If you read a perfect deepening script out to a client in a shrill nasal voice, it's more likely going to irritate them than it will lead them into a deep state of trance. You need to really slow things down, and do this progressively so that you get slower and slower as the trance deepens. You also need to lower your tone. Now a great exercise to do this, to improve your tone quality, is to practice moving your voice lower. So as an exercise, touch your nose and say, "This is my nose," and then touch your throat and say, "This is my throat," and speak from that place. Then your chest and say, "This is my chest," and then right down deep in your stomach. Hold your hand on there and say, "This is my stomach." And imagine your voice coming from down there. If you want to take it even deeper, imagine your voice coming down by your feet. If you do this exercise, it will really help you to deepen your voice. Now you don't have to start the induction like this, simply use it progressively. So as you move through the induction, your voice gets deeper and deeper. So it's going on par with your client. As they go deeper into trance, your voice goes deeper too. Now this is your hypnotic voice. So aside from the words you speak, this is your only tool. So look after it and train it well. If you can imagine a singer, they wouldn't dream of only ever using their singing voice on stage. They practice, and they practice lots, and your hypnotic voice is no different, so practice using it too. Now during the trance induction process, you tend to focus on the client's body. Now as you move into the deepener, you tend to shift this focus inward so that the client is focused on ideas and images within their mind rather than the external influence. Now you can easily make up your own deepening script using these notes as a guide, and doing this will make you a much better hypnotist. Also, listen to other hypnotists and see what they do. Hypnotic audio programs are a great source of inspiration. Don't simply copy what they do, but listen to it and get inspired by it. It's a great way to practice also picking out the different hypnotic language patterns. So listen to it, Pick out the language patterns they're using, decide why they're using them, why they say each sentence, and also listen to the way they deepen the trance state. Now, whenever I use the staircase induction, I like to finish by having the client imagine they're standing at the bottom of the stairs and in front of them is a door. I tell them that the door leads to a very special place, and as they pass through it, they'll go into a deep, deep trance. Now, I often also use the forest walk induction deepener too, and with this one I tell the client to imagine that they've come to a clearing, and in this clearing is a very special bed, and as they clamber up onto the bed they fall into a deep, deep, very special sleep where they begin to dream that they're drifting into a deep, deep trance. Now, using something similar to this enables you to move the client from a state of deep relaxation into deep trance. It's similar to having the lift go down into the basement. Now, that's pretty much all there is to the basic trance deepener. Practice everything you've learned so far and see if you can link it all together smoothly without looking at your notes. Having a few basic ideas in your mind is usually enough, and of course a few ready-made suggestions at hand for when you need a little bit of thinking time. As with the induction, try recording a few deepeners and listen back to them, and remember to really slow it right down. The way you speak is much, much more important than the things you say. So as always, listen to this lesson a few times and practice the deepening techniques thoroughly. Experiment with different options is important. Obviously, if you only practice a deepener that uses a lift or an elevator, it's not going to be very relaxing to a client that suffers from claustrophobia. So you need to have a few options at the ready. You might also like to come up with your own ideas for deepening scripts. Just remember the golden rule of creating a link between the concept of moving down and the idea of going deeper into trance. And of course, throw in lots of suggestive hypnotic language as well. So start to think about how you'll link the different stages of the induction together. Practice running through everything you've learned so far, just as you would in a real life situation. Remember to spend time on the pre-induction section, as this is far more important than many hypnotists give it credit. In your next lesson, we'll be looking at what you do with the trance itself, as well as the best ways to bring somebody back up out of hypnosis. So, well done for today. I hope you have plenty of time for practice, and until your very next lesson, take care and have fun. Bye bye.